Welcome to this Arnall-Culliford knitwear tutorial. This is part of our Year of Techniques, 12 patterns to help you to upgrade your knitting skills. Today I'm going to be showing you how to work helical stripes. Helical stripes are a fantastic way of working one row stripes of colour. In traditional striped knitting in the round, we would knit with one yarn up to the start of the round marker and then pick up the new yarn, knit around with that, drop the new yarn and pick up the old one, and we'd keep alternating. When you look at the right side of the fabric, this gives us a little step at the start of the round where the rows of colour don't quite line up with each other. And perhaps more significantly, on the wrong side of the work, you can see that where you carry the yarn up the wrong side, there's a little ridge where the yarn is, which obviously in a pair of socks or perhaps even in arm warmers isn't going to be hugely comfortable. When you work with helical stripes, that's completely removed. You don't have that at all. So here's an arm warmer that's been made already, and the start of the round is here, but as you can see, the stripes just continue completely seamlessly without any jog whatsoever, nothing noticeable. And when you look at the wrong side of the fabric, at no point are the yarns carried up the inside, and so it's perfectly smooth all the way round. Helical stripes are incredibly easy. So here I've got some knitting, it's just a little bit of ribbing for the cuff, and I'm about to reach the start of the round. I have joined in a new colour, this yellow yarn, and I'm ready to start my stripes with the two colours. So I'm going to work the last stitch in the old colour, and then I'm going to move the start of the round marker, and I'm going to knit round in the new colour that I've joined in until I'm 3 stitches before the end of the round. Right, we now have 3 stitches remaining in the blue before the start of the round marker, and we're going to slip those 3 stitches from the left needle to the right needle. And then we pick up the blue yarn and we return to it and we knit over the yellow. So we're going to knit along now in the blue yarn until we reach 3 stitches before the end of the yellow section. So what I always feel like I'm doing each time is each yarn is trying to catch up with the other, but never quite catches up. So you work until you've almost reached the other yarn, and then you stop and slip the stitches and you pick up the other yarn and work around with that. So in fact there's nothing clever or fancy about this at all really. You are literally just knitting one over the other, but because you never quite let them catch up, the 2 spirals sit on top of each other, because when you knit in the round it isn't single rounds, it's actually just one long big spiral. And in this technique the 2 spirals just sit on top of each other, and you never cross where the other yarn is, it never quite catches up. As you can see, the blue yarn, or bluey green yarn, has now caught up with the yellow end, and we've got 3 stitches of the yellow remaining, and all we're going to do is to slip them from the left hand needle to the right hand needle, drop the blue, pick up the yellow and carry on working. And you can start to see there that the spiral, the single row stripes are beginning to grow. You keep going like that. You work round with the yellow until you're 3 stitches before the end, slip them across, drop the yellow, pick up the blue and start again. You can essentially ignore the start of the round marker while you're working helical stripes until you need to introduce something like shaping or a change to the stitch pattern, and then you'll catch up to the start of the round marker ready to do those things. But while you're working stripes you can just ignore it. When you're knitting on DPNs, obviously I was using magic loop before, but when you're knitting on DPNs, it's particularly handy because instead of working to 3 stitches before the previous round, before the previous yarn, you can actually work a whole needle away, which means that you don't have to slip any stitches. So here my pale green wool is about ready to be worked, and I'm going to work across one needle, and once I've done a needle's worth of stitches, you'll see that I've caught up with the yellow, and so I will stop working with the green and pick up the yellow. So I've come to the end of that needle. The yellow yarn is at the end of the next needle, so I don't want to start knitting across this needle because I never want to actually catch up with the yellow. Instead, I drop the green, pick up the yellow, and then I can work round until I've caught up with the green. So as I say, it's like you're playing a constant game of chase, but never quite catching up with the other colour. On double pointed needles, because you can access the ends of the yarn on any of the needles, you can just avoid that step where you slip the stitches. I hope that's showed you how straightforward helical stripes are to work. If you'd like to know more about a year of techniques, do visit our website acknitwear.co.uk, and why not try something new today?